So the big question is this: how do you lose all the weight that you want and actually keep it off for the rest of your life, while trying to make sense of all the noise that comes from the weight loss industry? That is the question. And this podcast will give you the answers.
G'day everybody and welcome to the next episode of the Weight Loss Secrets podcast. My name is Baron Grant and I'm super excited to have you with me today. Normally I would say to share some tips and tricks, but today I'm not sharing those. I've got a special guest on my podcast today who I'm super excited to speak to because he has done an amazing job in losing a heap of weight, and that is Jeremy Dart. G'day Jeremy, how you traveling?
Very well, thanks Baron. Very well now.
Yeah, but earlier, that was an old ad, wasn't it? But yeah, really happy to have Jeremy on, and he's going to talk. We're going to talk through his journey, his huge weight loss journey that he's had, and I've mentioned him on a few earlier podcasts, so now we get to speak to the man, the myth, the legend, in person. And so, yeah, I'm just excited to be able to share this story with you. But as always, and Jeremy reminded me that I should do this actually, that this podcast episode is brought to you by Ditching the Diet, where you can find all the help that you need to be able to lose all the weight that you want and keep it off for the rest of your life, just like Jez has. And you can start off by just jumping online to ditchingthediet.com. You can get hold of my ebook, and that'll start you on your journey, and we have programs and everything that can help you to get there as well. But today, as we're going to go through Jeremy's journey, what led him to make the change, why he needed to make the change, and how he was actually able to make such significant change in his life. So to give you a bit of backstory, I knew Jeremy almost, I guess, from a past life. And then after a long time, we sort of reconnected. It was quite a few years, but we reconnected, and he reached out and said, yo, mate, I need some help. And this is where I'm at. So Jeremy started his journey with me weighing 149 kilos. Well, you told me the other day it was almost 150, wasn't it, when you went to the docs or something?
Yeah, the doctor told me it was long. It was bigger than that, but
yeah. We'll take 149. That's fine. But in a 27-week period, and that might seem like an odd number, but he did my program a few times, and in a 27-week period, Jeremy lost 50 kilos to get to 99 kilos. Have I got that right, Jez?
That's correct. Yeah, right. That's absolutely right. Yeah,
that is epic, right? That is epic. So I want you to tell more of the story than me. I'll just be the dude asking some questions here, really. But
sure.
How did you do it, and what led you to that point? Just give us a bit of a kick-off of why you wanted to change and how you did it.
Yeah, okay. So, look, weight loss has always been a challenge for me for as long as I can remember. It's just been a thing. I started my life I started life as a kid, but I got I went into food, and I was a chef for a long time, and you know, like eating food, like cooking food, it's great. But I found myself, I don't know, maybe it was the last couple of years that have been really bad that got a lot worse, but it's always been a challenge, and I just ate food, hadn't really given a lot of thought. But I guess when I reconnected with you, Baron, I was at a point where I knew I needed to do something. I have 9 children, and they're all growing up quickly, and I'm aware of the fact that I was aware of the fact that I wasn't as energetic. I was more tired. I run my own business, but that was all good, and I was coping with it. But then I sort of started to notice, maybe it was because I was getting older as well. I started to notice some changes in my body. I'm thinking, it's just because I'm getting old. And then I thought, maybe there's something else to it. What I really realized was when I started to try to do something myself, I failed. I just couldn't. I'd sort of start something, and you know, I'd eat a little bit of chicken instead of eating junk food, or I'd say to my wife, all right, I'm going to be on a diet now. I find the orange juice or lemon juice diet or whatever it was, and I'd buy all this stuff, and Michelle would roll her eyes every time I said, right, I'm going to buy this stuff, and that's all, and it'd last about a week, and that was all sort of a little bit of. It was probably, now I think about it, a bit tongue-in-cheek, but it got to a point where I thought I was eating so much rubbish, and I wasn't happy, and I honestly didn't think I was going to be able to do anything about it. I really got to the point where I felt like I'd bottomed out, and so I had actually started to. My brother-in-law had had sort of got involved with some surgery, and I heard other people doing surgery. So I started talking to the doctors about potentially going down that path. Just trying. I'd been to the doctors, and they'd given me a dietitian, and this dietitian was a lovely lady, but she's, oh, you've eaten too much cake today, and should have tried better. And then I'd go to another doctor, and the doctor said, well, you need to stop eating puddings, and you need to stop eating having soft drink. And that was kind of all the knowledge, all of the support I got, and it felt really patronising. And I was at bottom. I was so I thought maybe surgery. So let me
just before we keep going, let me ask this: when you say you're at bottom, like, it takes it for people to change, something big has to happen in their life. But I want to know how you felt at that point in time, because I think that a lot of people that I talk to, they're not in a good place, and blokes, I think, we hide it, so we act like we're all good. We're all good, but I want you to tell me, how were you feeling at that point, like 150 or wherever you were? What were you feeling about yourself?
Okay, so if I needed new clothes, I didn't want to go buy them. I would go to buy some clothes and realize that a double X was too small, a triple X was too small, a 5X was starting to get tight. I had shirts that were 6 and 7s. I would, if there was a photo, I'd try and hide behind everyone else. If there was a family photo, I'd try and avoid it as much as possible. Mirrors were something. In our room, we've got these mirrors near our bed, and I kept saying to Michelle, "Can we get rid of these?" I would refuse to look in mirrors. I didn't like the way I looked, or what I thought I looked like. Having said that, I would push through, and if anyone made any sort of comment about me or about anything to do with size, I would completely ignore it, and I just push on. Other people said I had this nervous laugh. I don't remember that, but I would sort of, there was a lot of things that I was doing that was covering up, and I didn't realize them until now. But I felt, I just didn't feel, I felt there's got to be something else, like I wouldn't say I was embarrassed. I am now, but I wasn't at the time. I just sort of went on with it, but I know that I made changes and did things differently. When I was eating, I think I've told you this story. When I'd go home and eat, or go on the way home, I'd get food and eat, and then I'd get food again, and I'd have lots of junk food, and I had all these packets in my car, and I'd stop by a rubbish bin and throw them out, so no one knew that I was eating so much junk.
Yeah.
It was,
Did you have thoughts in your head for why you were overweight? Did you make the connection initially, before we started talking a lot about this stuff? Did you make the connection beforehand that, it was because of what you were eating, or had you sort of convinced yourself that it was because of genetics or hormones or life?
There was those conversations. I mean, let's be honest, it was because I was what I was eating. But I even my family were like, oh, maybe it's a thyroid thing, maybe, like there's parts of my family that are kind of broader and big boned and carry a bit weight a bit differently, and so maybe that's just me. There's a genetic. I looked at the fact that there's a genetic disposition to obesity. Well, that's a problem, like it's going to be always a challenge. So there was all of those conversations, and I guess, I have to be honest though. If I was really, really honest with myself, and now I can be, I knew that wasn't the case, but I was exploring every option because there had to be a reason. Like, why is it so hard for me to lose weight? Why can't I just, stop eating for a week and I should have lost the weight, Or have a medium-sized Big Mac meal instead of a large one. That should be enough, And that's, I know it sounds funny, but it's actually, like, the thing is, I know what that mindset is.
And I think it's almost like the mindset of, people go to McDonald's and they go, I have a large double quarter meal, but I'll have a Diet Coke. And I'm always like, it's not the Coke. All right. So
yeah.
You mentioned to me that you hadn't had much success before we worked together. And what were some of the things that you'd done before? And how much was the most amount of weight that you lost in an effort?
Oh, okay. So,
give me a quick snapshot.
Anything you could name, I tried. I'd go to Jenny Craig and Weight Watchers and have the tube of tube of jam that they had. I don't know what it's crazy foods that they put in packets, and you'd buy it and you'd line up with everyone else and get a weigh in, and like, oh, you lost 100 grams today. And then you'd have a whole range of snacks that you could go and buy. And, that's great. But I probably lost 5 kilos, probably is the most I lost. I reckon my mum tells me that when I was young, when I went from grade 5 to grade 6 or something, I lost a huge amount of weight, fit into these clothes. I wanted to go to some concert, or I don't know how much that was. That was the most significant event that I remember, and I don't remember how much it was. I know that around the 5 kilos is the most I would have ever lost. It would be 1 kilo or 2 on average.
So to lose 50 and to lose it in such a short amount of time, something changed, right? What changed? Why did it work this time? And what have you learned?
I could be really philosophical on something someone said to me once. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. Okay, and I used to think, oh, that sounds really nice. But the reality was, I had got to a point for myself where I went, I probably need to do something now. But even look, I've got to say, I'm still in disbelief at the capacity of being able to lose 50 kilos in 27 weeks. There is not even that was beforehand. It was not a possibility. During that process, and you know this, Baron, I said to you, you had to believe for me, because there was no way that was going to happen. But I guess something that I kind of have learnt for myself is like, you know what, I'm just going to step into it. I'm going to step into it. I remember seeing you at a business meeting, and I thought, and I'd seen your posts. I'd just seen them appear, and I thought, that's interesting, ditching the diet. And I did a little bit of research and I thought, that's an interesting way of thinking it, because ditching the diet, but it's a diet, but it's not. And so I thought, you know what have I got to lose apart from 50 kilos now? But at the time I thought, there's nothing wrong with having a conversation. There's nothing wrong with it. Just saying, look, and probably, this is in my mind, he's going to say the stuff I already know, and I'm probably going to go, yeah, that's fine. But it's worth just a conversation. It could be the thing, and it's going to save me a whole stack of money compared to going to surgery.
20 grand for your cheapest
30.
surgery, really.
It was 30 was what I was looking at, and I was trying to get into my super, and just also crazy stuff.
I spoke about that just on a podcast the other day, that you can access your super to do surgery, but you lost weight faster than most people lose after weight loss surgery without having to be cut open, right? And I love that. I love that. But what I love about your journey as well, Jez, is that over this 27-week period, right? And I always say that's just to get to where you want to be, and you've got to live healthy for the rest of your life. There's no going back. But over that 27-week period, you didn't do everything perfectly. Like, it wasn't like you nailed it every single. Like, we would have lost it in 18 weeks.
I remember you kept saying that. You're like, you could have been so much lower.
But you nearly quit before we started. Do you remember that? Before you started, you nearly quit. I remember you calling me up on the phone, and you're like, Baron, I don't know if I can do this. So to set the scene, and you fill the gaps for me if I'm getting this wrong, Jeremy had some pretty bad eating habits, which I didn't find out until even after, when we did a video with him after. But he would eat during the day, and then on the way home he'd buy dinner at Macca's or KFC or wherever it was. Hungry Jack's.
5-6 meals a day, yeah, easy.
But then you get home and eat at home as well after eating on the way
Michelle
home.
had cooked. My wife had cooked dinner for me.
And it'd be rude
had
if you
already
didn't.
on the plate. It was already on the plate. It wasn't like I could say no. So who am I to say no to something?
But what I love is I found that out later on, that how bad your eating habits were, and I think sometimes it's hard to admit it. But I remember at the start, you nearly pulled the pin, and I don't know if I can do this, because you've had the convenient life, not healthy, but really convenient stuff, and now you're like, I've got to make food. Now it's easy and it's simple, but I've got to make food. No, what made you? Because I remember I was like, oh, mate, he might pull the pin here, and you hadn't even started day one. What changed your start? Time.
Look, I guess it was. I was really concerned about how much time. And time's always a challenge. I'm running my own business. I've got, I'm trying to grow it. I literally, and I won't change that adage. I don't have time. But I don't have time for a lot of things. But I remember you saying you've got to make time, and that was a constant conversation that we always had with a lot of things. I'd say I don't have this or I can't do this, and you say, well, you have to, you know. So that was in the back of my mind. But what I was concerned about was that if you go to Macca's, it takes you 5 minutes to get the food, or maybe it takes you 15 if they've got a 5-minute delay on the nuggets. I don't know.
Yeah.
But how am I going to do that if I've got to cook a piece of chicken and veggies and I've got to get home and how am I going to actually physically do that? And I remember you saying, well, you've got to make time. You've got to make time, or you're making choices one way or the other. You either choose to be fat, choose to be overweight, choose to be unhealthy, or you choose to do this and find the time. And I remember the food was a big thing in my mind. And look, I'm coming from a chef perspective. I don't even know why I thought that, because I'm cooking food faster than I ever did. You know, it's better and it's more filling, and I would hands down cook. I wish I could put a kitchen in my business here so that I could just cook food rather than have to prepare it. I love it, you know. So I was initially literally just going, look, I don't have time. All these things you're asking me to do, I'm afraid I can't fit them in. And look, in fairness, I can say this, and maybe I'm not telling 100% truth, but I don't think I was ever going to really pull the pin. But I was just, looking at it now, I needed reassurance. I needed assurance that I wasn't, and I think I might have listened to a couple of things that you said, like a podcast or something you'd done, and it was kind of like, oh, everyone has this thing. It wasn't just me. It was like, I'm actually not different from everyone else. Everyone's on the same journey, and I just need to embrace that, you know. And you said that over and over and over, and that was the thing. And look, at some point I had to say, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this. I'm just going to do it. Yeah.
But, and I guess thinking about it now, you could have gone the surgery route. You went this route. How do you feel about that decision now?
I don't know what I was thinking. I seriously, I don't know much about surgery. I went to the doctor, great doctor, really big fan of this guy. And I said to him, I want to explore surgery. And he said, don't do anything yet. He said, what you should do first is try these appetite suppressants. Just try these for a couple of months. Okay, I'll show you how to use them. And I took them home, and I do trust the medical profession to a point, and I'm not bagging them out at all. They've got a job to do. But I just had this thing in my mind, and that was just before I met with you, just before I sort of connected with you. And I put them in the fridge, and I'll get to them. And it was almost like I just put them aside, and I just wasn't sure. So now I'm looking at it going, oh, what was I thinking? I look, honestly, you said to me, and I've heard it before, 50% of people who have surgery put weight back on. I've heard my brother-in-law had all sorts of challenges with eating, and he destroyed his experience of food, and still does today. Other people have really great experiences of it, and you see all that before and after photos and think that's amazing, and that's what I was basing it on. But now I'm like, why would you do that? Like, this is so much easier. There's no pain. There's no time off work. There's, you actually get to embrace food. Working in aged care, there's a real connection between food and mental states. When we were working in the kitchens in aged care, we would cook certain foods to get people's digestions going, and it would give them experiences. We'd have food that would be related to their experiences as they were aging. And now I see the connection between preparing the food and eating the food, and that the experience that you have, a holistic experience. So why would I cut myself open to do the same thing and get possibly the same result?
So why? So that's why you did it, right, in the first place. But tell me what made it work? Because, like you said at the start, here's the little precursor. But like you said at the start, you didn't tell me anything new, Baron. Stuff I already knew. But what made it work this time?
Once I committed to the program.
Yeah.
Yeah. So once I committed, I threw myself into it a little bit, but the thing that made the difference, and I tell this to everyone, the only thing that's different, because look, as I said before, I ate the same food before. Like, it's not any different food to what I normally eat. Eggs, fish, chicken, veggies. There's nothing unusual about that. Might have cut out some things that I really liked, but it was all normal. And the quantity was there. The walking was a little bit of a challenge, but I just did it. But the thing that made the massive amount of difference, and not just at the beginning, but all the way through, was the fact that you were part of that program. You know, that there was somebody there that was, and I use the word accountability, and that can be a bit scary, but it wasn't accountability. It's like, oh, you know, there was elements of that. And I remember those times when you're like, mate, if I don't hear from you, I know you're at Macca's, you know, and you know that's a bit of a joke, but a bit of a laugh. But the reality was there was that sense of like, I'm doing this for me, but I don't want to let Baron down because I've committed to him and I've made that commitment. And but also, if I had a problem, I'd say, look, I remember saying this to you. You probably don't remember, but I remember saying, this food, I've been doing it a couple of weeks, and it's kind of boring, you know. And I like, I don't know if I'm gonna. And I would have said it. I don't know if I can keep going. And it's going to be a struggle on weekends. And I remember you sent a message back saying, embrace the boredom, embrace it, because you can either be fat or you can do what you're doing. You know, you can either embrace the boredom, or you can live the life you're living now, which may not be that long, or whatever you'd said. And so there was those little snippets. I didn't feel like I actually never felt, and even though you might think, I never felt like I was being pummeled into doing it. I never felt that you were pushing me to do it. But I remember you were journeying with me, and so that made a massive difference to me, because I wasn't relying on my wife, because I know what my wife would do. If I said, look, can I get some chocolate? She'd go and buy some chocolate. She loves me, you know. Yeah. You don't love me as much, Baron. And so you're like, no.
Maybe I love you more. But
we can edit this out, right? I won't let listen.
Yeah. but I think you said something that was interesting there around the food. And I want to be very clear, when I help people, there's lots to choose from. Like, we have lots and lots of variety. But I think people get so accustomed with eating enormous amounts of sugar, and everything's laced with sugar, that becomes the expectation. And so now we live in a society where 75 or almost 70% of people are overweight in Australia. It's insane. And that is because of the excess consumption of sugar. End of story. That is why people get fat. That is the whole story. Everyone wants to think it's something else. It's not. That is it. And so there's lots and lots of variety to choose from in healthy food, but it's not sugary, because it can't be. You can't have one thing and have the other at the same time. You can't have your cake and eat it, and you shouldn't have your cake or eat it. But but what's different for you now? Like, you're 50 kilos lighter. That is an enormous achievement, right? But what's different for you now in your life and in your brain and in your habits?
So it's been really interesting, because, you know, it's been a couple of weeks since I finished the program. So life is, you know, in one sense, it's back to normal. It's, you know, like, I don't have the same focus. But what's really interesting is that my whole approach to food, to walking, to water is different. This is my bottle. This is wearing out. This bottle is actually wearing. I'm going to have to get a new one, because I drink five of those a day. You know, like, I literally know I've got to fill 5 of them up to drink. That gives my water consumption. That's 600 mils, 500. That's 3 liters of water. This morning I got up 5 o'clock. I had a late night. It was my son's birthday. We had a bit of a birthday party for him. Get up at 5 o'clock and go for a walk. I don't. Like, I guess because I set a goal, I don't need to do that for the goal. I need to do that for life now, you know? So that's fundamentally different. Everything that I eat, I'm thinking about what I'm eating, and I'm not obsessed. I'm not counting calories, but I'm like, you know, I might catch up with the guys for a beer or a drink or something like that. And I'll go, okay, now I've had this. What's going to be the counter for that? Because I don't want to go back to where I was, and I know what's going to make a difference now. So I make that counter argument. I'm like, okay, well, like, I went out for dinner with some people. We did we had a bit of an afternoon on the weekend, and I might have had some chips or something. And I remember we went out for dinner, and the guy across the road, I ordered salmon. I went through the menu and I ordered salmon. You know, they're all ordering the schnitzels and the burgers, and one guy leans over and says, "Yeah, chicken parmas." And I'm like, "Oh, gee, that'd be nice." And look, I would have enjoyed it. But the one guy leaned over to it, was really fascinating. He said to me, "Are you back on the diet?" I said, "No. I've eaten enough. Now this is what I do. This is who I am. You know, it's not just because, I've done too much and I've got, you know, it's a balance." So my approach to life is so different. And the other thing that I think I said to you the other day, fast food's not even a thing anymore. I I drive past it. I cannot go. I have no interest. It's not even a thing. Macca's, I'm sorry, you're not going to get any money from me ever again. It's kind of my bucket list thing, you know. So
That's a
that's
good
a
thing.
huge difference. Yeah.
And I think that's a really important word that you said. It's balance, right? Because without the balance, you'll always go back. And this is where I try to talk to people about it. And because everyone goes from diet to diet, lose up, right? And the big problem with that is the concept is I'm going to lose weight, and then they go back to where they were before, eating what they were eating before, and the weight will always come back on. So that's why without a shift to go, I'm going to be healthy for the rest of my life, every single thing you do is a complete and utter waste of time. And I've worked with people who've gone up and down, and it's so demoralizing to put it all back on it again and have to start again. That's worse than losing in the first place. Literally don't bother. You've got it because it breaks you. So I really try and help people understand that you've got to have balance. I'm not saying you can not have a drink for the rest of your life. I'm not saying you can't have chips for the rest of your life. I'm saying you can't eat it in the consumption that it was before.
Yep.
Consumption you did before. It has to be different. Healthy people make good decisions about their food every single day, which is what you're now doing. You know, having that fish, you're making a healthy decision.
This has been the most, and I know I haven't shared this with you, Baron, but this has been the most exciting thing about finishing the program, is that by making those decisions, by making the right decisions based on what I do, and you did say this is what you do for life. This isn't a diet, because it's what you do for life. Now I'm making those decisions for life, and I'm seeing the results on the scales. You know, previously I wouldn't jump on the scales because I don't know what it would do. Now I could jump on the scales confidently going, I've had stuff that may not be part of the program, but it's balanced and it's not excessive, and it's in connection with the very things that the program says that you do all the time: the water, the walking, and the food. I'm 100% confident, no matter what I do, that it's going to be I'm going to be in a really good space. I know that it's never going to go back on again. It's not even I'm worried. It's now I know. You know what I mean? Like that's such a mindset change.
Because it's not guesswork, right? It's not guesswork. You know that it's what we put in our mouths, and that's the hardest thing. And you know, I put a post up on, I put a little short on Facebook, and in that short I said it was cut down, and I said something of you are where you are because of what you put in your mouth, and hormones play a small role. You know, people who say it's a thyroid issue, that's so tiny. It only puts on 5 to 10 pounds if you've got a thyroid issue. You know, like it is food, and people get so offended when I say that. And there was a lady who commented straight away and got offended. But I'm not saying it to be mean. I'm saying it to go, you got the power. You can make the change. And do you feel how different do you feel in your body now, day to day?
I've told this to a few people. It happened early on, and it's even better now. Like when I go for a walk, I used to, it sounds really small, but I'd sit on the bed to put my shoes on, and I'd cross my legs because I couldn't reach my shoes, right? Now, like early on, I started to lose a lot of centimeters around my stomach, and it's really good now. But I can actually reach right down. So now what I do is I never used to undo my shoes, to be honest. I just slip them off, and then I slip them back on. But now I undo my shoes every time I take them off. So I can reach down and I can do them up. Even this morning, I was reaching down going, yep, I can reach my toes. You know, and that's a little thing. The other thing is I can scratch the middle of my back. I can put my hand, and I could never do that. My arms would just, and so now I can actually do these things, and I'm walking along going, I can reach my shoulder blades. And it's just sort of crazy little things like that. My sleeping is 100 times better. Like I am sleeping so much more solidly. What else? There's like I just feel more active. I was at work just the other day because I've got I'm a bookbinder, and I've got cloth up on high-rise shelves, and I've got we should use a ladder, but I jumped up on a bench. I jump on a bench. Usually I'm like, I get up on the bench, and I jumped up to see whether there was any cloth there, and then I jumped down again, and I turned to Dad, who happened to be in at the time, and I said, I got a lot more energy. He said, yeah, I noticed that, you know, and it's just those sorts of things that they're sort of small. But the other thing, of course, the thing that I'm loving, and I say this to everyone, if there's a camera, someone's taking a photo, I'm in. Like, get me in the photo, you know, because I went out on the weekend with some friends, and I went to the toilet, and I stopped I was washing my hands, I looked up in the mirror, and I go, who's that guy? You know, yeah, it's so much different. And I've heard other people say you've got more confidence. I think I've got confidence anyway, and I always did. But there's just this different. I'm holding myself differently. I'm like, yeah, and I reckon it's partly because of the weight loss. Like a lot of it is because I feel physically better. But there's also this. I did it. I didn't rely on someone else to tell me to do it, or like to push me to do it. I didn't rely on surgery. I didn't rely on drugs. I actually have done this. I've achieved it.
Yeah, and that's probably the hardest part. Some people look at this journey to lose the weight and they go, "It just seems so hard." And sometimes because it seems so hard, you can't see how different you're going to feel at the back end of it. And I wish I could bottle that feeling and sell it to people for free. Like just go, if you drink this, you're going to understand what it feels like to be healthy for a second, because seeing the change in you and seeing the change in everyone that I work with when they've lost the weight, it's unreal. And you can't almost describe it.
No, I think now, why did I wait so long? Why like what was wrong with me? Like to not realize what I could have done and like you said, you could have done so much sooner and so much earlier. And it seems like, I guess like any big goal, this is a big goal. 50 kilos is a lot, and not everyone has that. Not everyone has that sort of need. But even if it's a kilo, like what I realize now is by chunking it down and going, I'm going to lay, and I remember you and I talking, it's a couple of kilos a week or a kilo a week. All you do is just one, and you just chunk that down. You do the same things over and over. The footy players talk about 1%, It's just that little bit that you do. And I remember thinking at the beginning going, this is going to take forever. And then 2 weeks in, I'm like, I got a little bit of result, and it was just that ticking along, not sort of going, this is the goal over here, but like, this is the goal now. And this is, and those little bits and pieces. And because not stretching, not being overwhelmed by such a big goal allowed me to go, I got a little bit of a win and a little bit of a win and just keep doing that same stuff and embracing the fact that it's not always going to be fun. Walking in the middle of winter when it was pouring with rain and I forgot to take an umbrella, or the umbrella wouldn't work because it was so windy anyway.
I remember that.
Oh man, it was like the Truman Show. It felt like the Truman Show when he's on the boat, and all the rain's coming. He says, "Is that the best you got?" It was kind of like that. Fortunately, that wasn't at the very beginning. That was about halfway through, and I knew what I had to do. But yeah, the goals, as long as you're realistic and going just a little bit at a time, just do that little bit, because the little bits make a difference. It adds up to a big bit.
Yeah, consistency. It's the magic pill that nobody wants to swallow, right? It's the doing the things you need to do every day, no matter what. Because I always say to people, it doesn't matter what you want to eat. It doesn't matter whether you want to exercise. You don't eat right, you get fat. That is the story. That is it, right? If you eat 100%. Good, you'll be healthy. That is it. And sometimes we think our emotions, or like your circumstances actually matter in relation to losing weight. You got 9 kids. That's insanity. Running your own business. And I know, and just so everyone knows, Jeremy's involved in all these business groups as well. So you won't meet a busier bloke, and he can do it. Everybody can do it. I mean, he's strong-willed as well. So that goes a long way. But
do you know,
time is not an excuse.
I just wanted to say for myself, I honestly didn't think I could do it, because I don't, like when I'm overeating, then I don't have discipline. And like anyone who's in the same boat, like true to yourself, if you're being honest with yourself, that's the reality. And I didn't think I had the discipline to do it. I honestly didn't think I had it. So, like it's like I might be strong-willed, but I was strong-willed combined with a guy who's running a program who's got the ability to read people's wills and go, your capacity to find those points to go, hey, look, this is what you can do. You can do this, and I believe you can do it. Makes a massive difference. That like you are walking hand in hand. I honestly feel, and I'm sure every one of your clients would feel, I was the only client you had. I seriously thought there was the only guy that because the way that the message you'd be like, come on, you can do, I know you can. And it was just like, wow, this is like, I'm engaged in this program, but I think you're giving me more than I'm giving you. You know what I mean? Like it was just, it's really, and it's so worth the journey. It's so worth the journey, because then you get to the end of it and go, Baron just talked to me about the stuff that I needed to do and I did it. That's not really, you know what I mean? Like, such a powerful, I've never seen anything like it. Like, when you talk about the difference, there's just something unique.
And I think when you've got constant contact with someone who's in your corner, but won't take your excuses, and I hope that's one of the major differences is sometimes when you talk to people and if you have the wrong people supporting you, they'll say, oh, it's okay. Take yourself easy, be kind to yourself.
Yep.
I'm not sure how often I said that type of thing. But
I don't remember that. Take it easy, be kind to yourself. I don't remember. There was a couple of other people who said that when I said I was doing what I was doing. They said, "Oh, you got to be nice to yourself." And I thought Barron doesn't say that. That can't be right. They must have got that wrong. But it wasn't. It was never pummeling. But you didn't take excuses. Like if I gave you an excuse, you'd be like, "No, that's not an excuse." Like you just said, like it does. Your circumstances don't matter. It's what you're eating, and really powerful.
So to finish up, what would you think about where you were at the start of the program before you even spoke to me, right? And say to people, because I think you were at a place where you're like, nothing's going to work. If I've got that right, you're like, I've tried all these different things. What would you say to people who feel that? Because I talk to people all the time who feel like it doesn't matter what they do, it's not going to work, right? It works every time, by the way. Every time someone eats right and moves consistently, always works every time. What would you say to those people who don't believe anything can work?
I would say you've got to take this out for a spin. At the very least, you have to. If you don't think it's going to work, then, well, putting it nicely, you got rocks in your head because it does. Like 50 kilos. There was no way I thought this was going to work. There's no way. Like, I was absolutely sure that it would work, but I didn't think it was going to work like this. And so for anyone else, why wouldn't you try it? If you've tried everything, then you have to try this. And if you haven't tried everything, you've got to try this first. Don't waste your time looking at other things because it's the simplicity of it and the ease in which you can do it. Just a couple of little changes. You would be mad not to have a conversation. You would be absolutely insane. And the harsh thing that I hear Barron saying, you can either live a short life and enjoy the food, or you can live longer and enjoy life the way it's supposed to be by doing this program.
Yeah.
And so I think it really comes to choice.
I think people ignore the fact that I remember when we initially spoke, I think I was pretty harsh, or blunt, would be pretty honest about where I was at. And I said, when you were juggling in your mind what you should do, I remember talking to you and saying, hey, like, you are hugely high risk factors for everything, for heart disease, for a heart attack, for stroke, for diabetes. I think I said to you, it's not you get diabetes, it's when you get diabetes, because it's going to happen. But remember that in the vast majority of cases, type 2 diabetes is a choice. It's a lifestyle choice. Now, it's not a deliberate choice. It's a choice that happens over the course of many choices, right, that just happen in our lives. But we can be healthy and we can make those changes. Is there any final words that you want to say? Because I'm conscious of your time. I know you're at work and I want you to get back to work. But
the only thing I'd say is, just on that, you were the doctors were nicer than you were, which I think is really interesting because the doctors didn't tell me that stuff. They would say your blood sugar's higher. Like you talk about all the risk factors, I had them all, right? But the doctors were like, well, you need to eat less puddings. And I think, in hindsight, that's the stuff that we kind of need to hear. We need to know where we're really at if we're going to move forward. This program is hands down the best thing. Like I want to walk the streets and just tell people, you just got to talk to Barron. Because it's changed my life. And I know my wife just yesterday said, make sure you tell Barron how much we appreciate what he's done for our family.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So,
because it's not just the numbers are amazing, right, Jez? Like I look at it, 50 kilos in 27 weeks is nuts. It's absolutely nuts. I hear people on these other programs who talk about, and it's not my program, it's what you did, right? And it's the consistency that you did those things. But you see these people, they're like, I lost 5 kilos in 8 months. And I'm like, what? That is not inspiring enough to keep moving with it. It's not inspiring enough to stay on that sort of process. So, the numbers are one thing, but I think what you said there is the most important thing. Is what you've done is you've got your life back, not just for yourself, but with your family. And you can't put a price on that. You know, the medical community put $20,000-$30,000 on that, but you can't put a price on that because it allows you now to spend more time with your kids. You know, you're probably, maybe a better relationship with your wife because you feel more comfortable in who you are. And all of those things are part of this mix. And that makes me super happy. Like, I just think that's a really cool thing to watch and watch people change through that process. So good on you, man. I think it's an amazing achievement. And, you know, there's more to go. What did I say to you? You've got to be the healthy guy for the rest of your life. And at the start, people go, you're a gym junkie. And I'm like, well, I prefer to be addicted to going to the gym or doing things like that than anything else. And I said to Jez, I'm like, you've got one way to go in this or another way. And you watch those guys on The Biggest Loser, they lose a heap of weight and the vast majority of them put it back on. And that's because they make stupid decisions later. And I said, you've got to go either the way of putting it back on. You never stay where you are. You've either got to be healthy or you've got to go down the path of, I'm going to do fun runs. I'm going to be involved in, I'm going to hit the gym. I'm going to become a fitness and healthy person. And I reckon that's the path you're going down. Have I got that right?
I have got a list now. I'm doing 2 fun runs this year. I never run in my life, so I'm doing 2 fun runs this year. I'm going to take up tap dancing because I never thought as a 150 kilo guy I could actually, you know, do tap dancing. Now I'm like, I'm going to take it up, you know. So it's all of the activities I want to do are the ones that, you know, lighter people do. So that's
And now you're there, you can do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. And we are going to go skydiving at one point.
Yes.
You can, which is exciting.
Yeah,
so we're going to go jump out of a plane together. We'll put that on a video as well. But I'll let you go and go back to work. But I'll let you go back to work. And I just want to say a huge thanks for sharing your story. I just want people listening to this to understand that, you know what, whether it's with me or whether it's with someone else, you can get to where you want to be. And making the choice to just freaking do it is the key, and being consistent with it. And I sometimes I want to shake people in a good way and say, don't listen to anybody else who says you can't, or it's your age, or it's because of this, or your gender, or your, you know, how, you know, that you need a pill, or you need all that stuff's bull crap. You've got to move, and you've got to do it consistently, and you've got to eat good food. That's the number one thing, and you got to do it every day, not make excuses. And that's what you did. And I just I'm wrapped that you did that. So thanks for jumping on, Jez, today and sharing your story.
Not a problem. Anytime.
All right. And just before we close off the Zoom, I will say to everyone, I'll keep bringing more stories. So make sure you hit subscribe, follow, or whatever you're watching us on or listening to us on. Please jump on that, and I'll keep sending through tips and tricks every day to help people make long-term changes. So thanks again for joining us. Thanks, Jez. You're a legend. Keep it going, brother. We'll keep an eye on your progress over the next coming months and years. You're a legend. Talk soon.
Cheers.